Some call them lunchtime lifesavers. Others call them the most perfect sandwiches to ever exist. At Zaxby's, we just call them our signature fan favorites. The Southern TLC Filet Sandwich has hand-breaded chicken with fresh tomato and crisp lettuce. The famous Kickin' Chicken Sandwich features spicy tongue torch and Cool Ranch sauces. And for a limited time, fried pickles are back. 2 classic sandwiches and a legendary appetizer. 3 more reasons you're gonna get a kick out of Zaxby's.
From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
wake up, wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up War Chant presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan Hajavandi. Corey Clark in the house, Midtown offices, Tallahassee, Florida, warchant.com. We're gainfully employed by that great outfit. Great because Corey works there, naturally.
Hey, sure, yep.
Use the promo code FSU Spring 2020. Sign up for a year and actually get 18 months of access, steal 6 months from us, and we'll throw in a $50 gift card to Garnet and Gold. Pretty much anything you could ever imagine or want that's Florida State related is sold by those fine merchandisers. Corey Clark, how are you, man?
I'm good, buddy. How you doing? You doing all right? I haven't been in here in a minute.
It's been, yeah.
I feel like it's been like a month since I've been in here.
I think the quarantine window has gone out.
Well,
on the
let's
Rona.
see. What is that, 2 weeks? How long can it
I think it said like
gestate?
I think up to 21 days.
Oh,
Maybe that
so
might
you're,
even
you're
be
not
a
in.
little bit.
You're still in the.
No, I'm out of it. I've been back for like a month now, man.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, no, like 3 weeks.
All right, so right there.
We're just right outside the window.
Okay, great.
You should be okay. I think I have like just a common cold right now. I think it was at Hauser Tuesday with the Mercer game. I didn't wash my hands.
Did
before
you
I
say
had my-
MRSA?
Mercer.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Well played. I didn't wash my hands before I ate the pizza, and then I immediately had like a sore throat, like before, when I was walking out of the stadium. I'm like, probably caught just some mold. Went to Hong Kong and beat the Rona, but came back to America and I think got the common cold. But I'm bouncing back.
All right.
Was able to get some great. It was a little bit cold on Saturday morning for the football practice that started, but I'm probably going to get this Kickin' Chicken Sandwich and then get my weekend rocking and rolling fully so that I'm ready for the week that's ahead. Lots of good stuff. Florida State wins the ACC men's basketball regular season title outright for the first time in program history. We're saying outright, right?
Yeah, they did. They didn't share it.
Yeah,
they had 4 losses. Louisville had 5.
Yeah, some crazy people are like, we're co-champs. It's like, what are you talking about? Don't slander your own environment.
They would have been if Louisville had beaten Virginia. They would have been co-champs, but that didn't happen.
The women and Sue Semrau fell short, but it's all right. Also, belated congratulations to the indoor track and field team. I think they won the ACC championship. So,
They did.
Amazingly, despite the fact that all the forces in the world conspire against Florida State athletics, they're still somehow able to win these championships. It's crazy. But football is what you're here for, so let's talk about football. Saturday, you got to watch a lot more of it than I did. The way it works out is that in terms of what I can do, what Gene can do, video and photography, and this isn't a complaint at all, is pretty much what we were able to do during Willie's tenure, which is about the first 3 periods of practice, which works out to about 15, 20 minutes that we're actually able to film and video. So I did that. I recorded as much as I could along with our intern emeritus, Austin R. Cox, helped out. I guess we'll call her intern emeritus. Is that what you call those people that like they leave but they stay around, like emeritus, like presidents? Emeritus.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever that is. So then I went ahead and got all that uploaded for everybody to enjoy. It's like almost on 10,000 views, like barely 24 hours after it's uploaded.
Oh, is that so? You were gone for a while.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
I didn't realize that.
I did write down a bunch of stuff that I was able to see when I got back. But you were the eye in the sky, our hawk, the coracle.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I guess I wanted to set you up for a bunch of stuff, but I mean, just you joked about it on the video. It's even more than night and day. It's night and whatever you said. Some sort
I don't know what I said. Apples or some pears.
It's just something. This is not the Kool-Aid podcast. I don't think it's ever going to be confused for the Kool-Aid podcast. I hope it never is. But what just the palpable sort of sense around that practice was completely different than anything I experienced the nearly 2 seasons Willie Taggart was at the helm. And I happen to be a fan of pretty much everything that was going on out there. Just it felt like a real spirited, authentic, focused, laser-focused, organized practice. Kind of what a Division I high-caliber program, the esteem of Florida State should have.
What you want. Yeah, it's what you want. Yeah, I was, again, It's not like we go around from campus to campus watching everybody else practice. I don't even know how many ACC teams have open practices. So we can't compare it to other schools in the country necessarily. We can just compare it to what we've seen here, even really before Willie. Excuse me. Like Jimbo, we got to see probably 1 or 2 practices a year under Jimbo. And Jimbo, his were pretty quick, pretty tight, pretty well paced too. Not as quick as this though. And also he kind of stayed in one spot. Norvell, works with the quarterbacks. He's talking to the quarterbacks, but he's also showing Terry how to line up on the line of scrimmage, like where he wants to put his pressure on his front knee and stuff like that. He's walking to the defense and he's walking to the O-line and he's yelling at everyone, either encouragement or being discouraged with something. He yells at him, but he's always yelling and he's loud. He's yelling at his coaches. He got mad at them one time. I think the tight ends weren't where they were supposed to be, or maybe a certain sect of receivers wasn't where they were supposed to be, and so they were late getting over there. And he yelled really loud, "Come on, coaches, let's go!" And just and he talks about coaching his coaches, which is something Bowden talked about forever. But he really is like, I didn't realize that and it makes sense. They had 3 or 4 walkthroughs for their first practice because it goes so fast.
And I'm always so curious about that. It's like these guys show up at practices. Like, do you guys know where you're going to be?
Yeah.
It's like you need to almost practice for your practice.
Yeah, and they did. Apparently 3 or 4 times, and that's why he was still a little bit upset afterwards that it wasn't as smooth maybe as he wanted. But overall, it was really smooth, I thought. And and I thought that he seems like a nice enough guy. Not that anybody really cares if you're nice or not. But he's not going to be a player's coach. That doesn't mean he's a Bobby Knight. It just means that he's going to hold all them accountable, and he doesn't care if there are 200 people on the sidelines watching, because there were with the media. Well, we made up like 20 people, but then the juniors that were there and all the coaches from the state that were there, the high school coaches. And he doesn't care if all those people are there watching. If you do something he doesn't like, he's going to call you out in front of everybody. And, he's going to say boo-hoo, which is what he said about one of the kids on the team, that he didn't like his effort that he was getting, and he yelled out boo-hoo to the kid. And it's like there's just – it'll be interesting to see when the accountability takes hold with the players, because that's when you really know you got something. But right now, man, I think you see how those coaches are, and it starts at the top. That guy's attention to detail is incredible. And so he's going to hold his coaches accountable to have that same attention to detail, and it'll be interesting to see when the players start, if and when the players kind of grab hold of that.
How so? What do you mean?
Well, because, yeah, it's great that you have coaches that demand perfection or pay attention to that detail. But, are the players going to get on another player for half-assing it? To me, that's when you know that it's taken hold. That's how you change a culture, is when the players care enough to police themselves almost. There's no way that a kid at Alabama is going through the motions in the first day of spring practice. I just don't think that. I don't think that maybe a freshman that hasn't been here doesn't know it. But I think those guys hold themselves to a standard. And I think in the 90s here, this place held itself to a standard. And the players, the Tay Codys, wouldn't let a new freshman a cornerback come in and half it. You know what I mean? Just wouldn't. And I think that – I don't know why Tay Cody came to mind.
I like that, though.
Yeah,
good, strong.
Out of nowhere. But I just think that's when you know you have a culture. And, starting from the top down, it's a good start, though.
And in that rambling sort of preamble, basically what I was trying to say is that while we were limited in what we could film –
I had to ramble. You left.
No, not you. I'm talking about myself.
Oh.
I was trying to set you up.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to clear out the pipes. Still got a little bit of, some of that Rona, I think.
Yeah, that's great,
Some
man.
of the Strand is in there. But basically, yeah, we're limited in what we can film and photograph, but we were actually able to watch the entire practice. Corey was watching the entire practice. I saw some of the stuff that you'd mentioned there, but just in terms of, everything was different. Even like the drills they were running were different. Even the way I think they were, again, we did see, I think, at least one of Willie's practices start to finish.
Yeah.
At least one, maybe even 2, I want to say.
Yeah, his first spring, I think. Yeah.
Even the way they ended practice was different than kind of, I think probably a lot of programs end with 11 on 11. I mean, they mixed some 11 on 11 towards the end, but then they actually they broke out and did some drills before they huddled it up to close it down for the day. But I liked how they were doing some 7-on-7 stuff while they were working on pass rush. I mean, like they were all on the same field. Like they were doing pass rush like from the 20 to the end zone on one side while they were doing 7-on-7 going to the opposite end zone. Like James Blackman had a little virtual reality device. I asked Jordan Travis if he's ever seen like what that perspective is, and he said he couldn't, but he couldn't wait to get his hands on it.
It's basically, it looks like a GoPro on top of the helmet.
Yeah,
that the quarterbacks had on. The quarterback, all of them were wearing them, right? Or was it just?
I only saw James wearing it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, maybe they'll maneuver it and put it on other guys. I'm sure they probably will give other guys the option to be able to wear it so they can see what they were looking at too. So let's go there with quarterbacks. James Blackman, Jordan Travis, and Tate Rodemaker, who he looks physically okay. I mean, he looks like a guy that
he's a big kid.
Yeah. Second play, I think. When it started, we were able to film it. They were just kind of going against air, but it was with so much. I mean, Florida State did that last year with Kendall, where they would go 7-on-7 against air, but like nowhere near the amount of strain and stress that was being put on the players. It was just kind of like, all right, the ball is spotted on the right hash, go. All right, go, 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 go. It's on the left hash now. But this was like Mike Norvell yelling. I mean, it reminded me of –
him and Dillingham both.
Yeah.
It's like a NASCAR pit crew.
It reminded me of, like, was it the show Scared Straight?
Yeah.
Where, like, they wake up the kids, like, get up, wake up.
Yeah.
You get it? It's like it was pretty much like that, like making it pretty much so uncomfortable, so much stress and strain on the quarterback. Day one, spring football. And I was just I was eating up everything. I loved it. I mean, that sort of aggressive yet focused. I don't want to keep saying focused, but like there's a rhyme to the reason. Like I'm not all in favor of being a jerk to your players just to be a jerk. I just happen to think that football is an extremely difficult, stressful game mentally and physically that I don't know how you can really prepare for it if you don't create a culture and an environment of similar sort of climate. Like I don't think you can practice football and literally take a dance break. I literally don't think that's a good idea. Well, I just don't.
Hindsight would tell us that probably wasn't the best idea.
But let's stick with quarterbacks, though. Second play that James had fumbled, and you could hear an audible groan by anybody watching.
He just dropped the snap. It wasn't like he was hit. He just dropped the snap. Still my
guy. Still got your back, James. I'm still going to be here advocating on your behalf just to upset people. Apparently there's a thread about how people got upset that I'm encouraged by James Blackman just because I want to see them get upset. It's great.
It's a
content provider.
Yeah.
So ultimately, though, when I saw the end of the practice, by the time I got back, they were doing kind of 7-on-7 stuff. The secondary I thought looked really sharp. But quarterback-wise, they all looked – I mean, I don't think – Tate Rodemaker handed the ball off a lot, it seemed like. I didn't see him throwing a lot towards that end where they were going 7-on-7.
Yeah, I actually charted all the plays, all the throws.
And you didn't bring it with you?
I did. It's actually in my phone.
All right.
But I thought, honestly, out of those three, and again, it's one day. Keep that in mind, and they're in shells. Like this isn't – it's 7-on-7. It's not real football yet. That I thought Jordan Travis probably had the best day throwing the ball. He definitely made the best throw of the day. He threw a little seam pass, not a little one, probably 25 yards downfield to a tight end. I think it might have been Wyatt Rector.
19?
So the three-back, whatever we're calling him. I want to say it was 82, though. But
it's the Austin Davis, I want to say. Oh, he's the guy from Tampa Catholic, I think.
So, but it was a really, really good throw. And, it was encouraging that he made some bad ones. He had a couple that just went straight into the ground. And Dillingham told him about it. But then also Dillingham, at least 4 or 5 times, said, that's the throw, J. Trav. There you go, J. Trav. More than he was doing with any of the other quarterbacks that I saw. I don't know if that's to build his confidence or he really liked what he was seeing. But, yeah, when they were just running the things on air, James isn't the most accurate kid. He was making the throws, but they weren't perfect. Even from 12 yards, they weren't perfect. And Travis, I think, had a little more of the high right on the chest throws than anybody else. And we know he can run. Not that will probably be a huge factor in this offense. It hasn't been in a Norvell offense previously. But, yeah, I mean, the way he was handled last year, the fact that, like, I guess, Bryles brought in his guy. Willie obviously wanted Blackman. And Travis, it's like, was just an afterthought until Willie left. And then even when he played, they never really let him throw. It's like, what, I'm sure he has an arm. He literally does have a right arm. We see it attached to his body, and they would never let him really use it. So you wondered, okay, he must just be awful. Like, he can't throw it to his mama. But no, you were out there. I don't know how much you saw of him throw, but in that session, the 7-on-7s, he was really accurate. He made some nice throws.
Yeah. I think 11-on-11, he had a screen pass that went for a touchdown to 38. I don't have the roster in front of me. That might be Trayshawn Ward.
It is. Yeah.
So I did see that. That was like the sort of the big play.
But that was just a screen pass. But
yeah, it wasn't. It was a lot of yak. It was a lot of yak. So I don't know. Do you want to go more macro or micro, just in terms of? I mean, I have the notes here of like guys that stood out, or just overall like. I mean, let's go back to just like the systemic way that this practice is being run and the attitude of this coaching staff. When they got ready to do 11-on-11, again, I think I'm trying to give people some, like, I don't know, evidence, but just examples of things that I think fall in line more with what we traditionally, conventionally think of like a football coach having to be a little bit hard-nosed and maybe a little bit more illuminating, a word that you like to use, Corey, a lot, of just, why I think this is going to change, because I think these are all teaching moments, and it's going to build a sort of a character within the team. But when they got ready to do 11-on-11, one of the coaches, I saw him. I'm not going to say particular names on these things, because again, for all this access we're being given, there's a lot of stuff they don't want us to talk about.
Well, and also you don't want to. Like the one thing I always agreed with Jimbo on is the sanctity of the practice field. Like, you're going to hear stuff that's said to someone that maybe their parent doesn't want to read. You know what I mean? That their parent doesn't want to read. There are teaching moments that aren't always pretty. Leonard Hamilton, I'm sure, has had them. Leonard Hamilton, we all know how I feel about that guy, but I'm sure there's been some practice moments where you'd cringe just watching how coaches interact with players. That's part of the deal. So I do feel like we can talk. Like, that's why I didn't mention who Norvell was talking to.
Oh, absolutely.
The boo-hoo thing. I just, if you were out there, you could have seen it, but I just don't think that's. That's a part of learning. It's a part of growing up. It'd be like reporting on a kid being lectured by his teacher in a classroom. You know what I mean? For not paying attention. I think that's kind of not off limits, but I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. But we can't. I don't want to not just step on toes. I don't know that it's necessarily our job to if a coach just loses his mind to.
And it's day one. Like, if this was week 3 and this same player had been yelled at a few times, and you can maybe start talking about, it doesn't seem like he's really taking well to the new coaching staff or something like that. But again, it's the first day. And to that point, that player, I saw him after practice, and he seemed fine. He was like talking and smiling, or not. I don't want to say smiling to like people think that was he was like joking around or something. But like, he didn't seem sour.
Oh, that's good. Well, that's good.
But the coaching staff yell out one base. So basically, like, when we yell out one base, first team defense, run onto the field, like where I'm at. So the coach is like, one base. And, they kind of jog out to him. I thought they ran at a pretty good pace, but he just flipped a switch. Goes like Ultimate Warrior. He's like, you think that's running out to me? He's like, do that again. Don't do that ever again. Come out, try it again. And, like, they run back to the sideline. He's like, one base, and then they all run out there, and he's like, okay, better. I mean, just
yeah.
And then listen, again, we didn't see all of Willie's practices, but I think we saw enough from a lot. We saw a little from a lot that you can extrapolate a good amount to probably think that kind of attention to detail, that kind of tone with players probably wasn't commonplace. Not that it never happened, but it just wasn't something that happened often. The fact this happened like first day, you're really trying to set standards. Like the first day and people are going to get upset because stop talking about Willie, he's gone. Again, I don't know how that works. The guy.
It's hard to do. It's hard to not bring up the old regime when you're talking about the first day of the new regime.
Yeah. So that happens.
Then we did it with Willie, quite frankly. When Willie's first day, we were comparing him to Jimbo.
Yeah,
and it was all positive. Game. Now it turned out we jumped the gun on that, but yeah, that's just how it works.
So they run back out and follow his lead, and then they do it again, and then for whatever reason, the player, the boo-hoo comment, kind of happens, and like one of the coaches before that happened, like you could see it leading up, like you could see that the player wasn't like fully dialed into what the coaches wanted. But to see what the way one of the defensive coaches got on the kid's case, and it wasn't mean-spirited, but it drove home such a, again, it's like the scared straight moment from those TV shows where you see these kids like getting yelled at by like security, or not security guards, like prison guards or police officers, just about like, it's not like it's a new day, but just there is going to have to be a level of discipline and effort and kind of, I don't want to say obedience, because I'm not an obedient guy. I always go against the grain. But there's a level of, if you're going to want to play for this team and this program now, there's a certain expectation that is clearly being communicated to these guys, and if you don't live up to it, there's probably not room for you.
Yeah, and that's
me,
the message that's being put home. Like, man, we don't have time for this.
Exactly.
And the thing I would be saying if I was Norvell, and I'm sure I doubt he does, but maybe it's just my personality, I would be yelling 18 and 20 every time somebody jogged somewhere instead of ran, or rolled their eyes at me, or didn't give me the effort I want.
Or Shreveport.
Yeah, or El Paso.
Easy. El Paso's pretty cool.
Well, hey, Shreveport has its moments. But, yeah, I'd just yell out 18 and 20. Like, that's an 18 and 20 attitude. It's like the whole maybe not a great example, but that Hard Knocks when Jeff Fisher cut the kid because he missed curfew or something.
6 and 10.
That's a 7 and 9 mindset. Yeah. That's a 7 and 9. I would be doing that all the time. These guys don't know how to win. And it is going to be hard initially, I think, for some of these guys to buy in. Some might not at all, but I don't think he will have any hesitancy if the kid's not buying in and just say, "Get off my field," or "You're not done. I'm done with this. You're done practicing. You need us more than we need you." That kind of mentality. I mean, that's what you got to do. You're taking over a program of wounded players.
That literally sounds like what happened to A.J. Litton.
Could be, yeah.
Like pretty much at a practice was like, hey, leave.
Yeah, I mean, that's, trying to do something, man. And doing it the way you've been doing it, 18 and 20. Now, how else you got to say it? Like, don't you come to college to win football games? You came to Florida State to win football games, not to go to El Paso and Shreveport. So this is how you have to do it. And it's hard. It sucks. But you chose football.
Right.
You could play golf, man. You chose football. It's a hard sport. And we're going to be on you. That's the overriding message when you're trying to what Norvell's doing. And it's just so, again, it's night and day doesn't even do it justice. Just the difference. We saw it at the tour of duty at 6 a.m. And then I think it was Jordan Travis said that's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
By we, you mean the Royal Week, because I was not there.
Oh, that's
6
right.
in the morning
I was, though, unbelievably. And then, Jordan Travis said it was the hardest thing he's ever done in his life, which, again, it's good. Good.
Thank God.
You have to push yourself. Yeah. And then, Norvell said afterwards that they want to make practices so hard and so fast that on game days it seems slow to the players. But, again, that's the right mindset. Again, we're not going to do this for the next 3 years, but I always thought that on game days with the previous regime, it sure seemed like there was a lot of it was frantic. Like they weren't used to it didn't seem like they practiced at game speed. And then when they got into a game, it took them a while, if they ever did, adjust to the tempo of a game. And just the passion, the energy you have to play with in a game. You can't have it on Tuesday. I'm sorry, that's the third time I've said that.
Well, other than the first
on Saturday.
Other than the first two games. I mean, they did come out like gangbusters against Boise and Louisiana Monroe.
True. Yeah.
At least offensively.
Well, yeah. Defensively, though, didn't seem like they had a lot of answers for anything. So yeah, man, I was encouraged. And yeah, we're not a show that's gonna. I mean, you guys, if you've listened to us long enough, we're not a show that's just gonna pretend something's great when it isn't. So we would not be. I don't, especially after what we just went through with the last guy. Like where it wasn't that I was making excuses, but anytime something bad happened, it was always a referendum on his losing record, and I would try to provide context,
which is fair, man.
And then they lost a few games here and there at the beginning, and I'm like, look, that happens sometimes. He could be building, so you always want to give the other side. There is gray, and I think we did a good job of providing the gray during the Willie Taggart era. But if I didn't like something, if I didn't like something that we saw out there, I would certainly say it.
Yeah.
But no, everything to me looked great. Not great, but I mean, it looked like there's a a well-organized structure and plan to the practices. Yeah. And those coaches really, really get in there and coach. Yeah. To the detail, I brought it up on the video afterwards when who's my man that was is it I don't know how to say his last name. Papuchis? Pooch. When they're coaching punt return, and a kid was running back. He's one of the blockers, and they're teaching him, run. I think this
is a punt return unit.
Punt return unit, yeah. And they're not trying to block the punt; they're trying to set up a block for the return. And I think what they're trying to do is maybe if he catches it at the 10, you're supposed to be at the 30 and turn around, something like that.
Right.
So he was getting on to the kid for not looking over his correct shoulder when he was running back to set up to block. That's incredible attention to detail. You wouldn't even think about something that would even notice that. Yeah. And it's just stuff like that. Norvell, somebody caught a pass and against air and was running, kind of finishing the drill, and he wasn't holding the ball high and tight like he wanted to. And he's like, high and tight for the rest of your life. High and tight. Uh-huh. So that's really a mantra that they preach a lot. No ball hits the ground, and when it hits the ground, you hop back on it and get it. And in fact, I'll bring this up because I was going to mention him early anyway. Warren Thompson, to me, man, he could be a freakazoid. Like if it comes together for him, if it all comes together with the mindset that he has to have, he could be a big time player. He is fast. He is tall. He looks like another Terry. He looked to me to have a little more burst coming off the line than Terry did. So he was,
that weight Terry's gained.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's a tight end now. So he was really impressive physically, and that's why I brought this up to bring up another point. He dropped a ball. He dropped a pass, and then the ball kind of laid by its feet. And Dillingham says, "Get the ball, pick up the ball." And he kind of just, slowly leaned down and picked up the ball. It didn't mean anything to him. He wasn't rushing, and he was kind of told in no uncertain terms, "Rush." Pick up the ball.
Urgency.
Yeah, there's got to be some urgency here. And Norvell had him another time where he was telling him something. He wasn't walking away being mean. He was walking to get back in line to run the drill again. And Norvell was telling him something. He's like, no, stop. Turn around. And then he told him what he wanted. He didn't want to he wanted to see him in his eyes that he was listening to him. I know it sounds like we're over the moon with this guy. We'll see. It all matters what happens in September and October, but that, to me, it was a really good start.
Yeah, I don't know how the dinner's going to taste, but I like the ingredients that are being brought to the kitchen. I like the way I like the smells that are emanating out of the
sure. Well, the ingredients though, that imply
the players.
We like
right.
the chef in there. We don't know the ingredients.
Right. Fair.
Are they 18 and 20 ingredients? Or are they better? I don't either. Yeah. I think they're better than that. Yeah. So it's going to be just to talk about though such a shift in how just a life shift for all those players.
Life shift.
That's exactly. I mean, it was an enormous life shift. Yeah. It would be like Ira quitting and going somewhere else, and then I don't know, that dude that I was telling you about that I worked at in Valdosta coming in and just screaming and slamming doors and I mean it's such a life but he was a bad boss. It's just such a life shift for these guys. That it's going to take a while to get adjusted to it, right?
Yeah, I think so, for sure.
Gosh, it'd be nice if they had some success early. To see the hard work that they put in pay off.
To that point, though, I hope it is authentic hard work that's being put in. It'd be one of those questions you would never get an honest answer out of, but like going into the West Virginia game, if they were to lose, would be to ask like Mike Norvell, like, did you guys deserve to win? And like they hear him be like, we did not work. These guys still don't think we're working hard enough to where we can beat a team that's kind of close to us,
right.
Maybe talent-wise. I mean, although I think we're probably a little bit more talented West Virginia. But again, for them, if they do put in this hard work, if everybody keeps talking about this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, and they really are pushing themselves to that 100% mark of their ability, and then they were able to win a game, then that's when you can really start letting your mind dream a little dream about how far this program can go. At least in year one.
And also, it's not just us, the media guys that were talking about the difference in practice. Both Blackman and Travis, the players were talking about it, and it sounds like a shot coming from Blackman and Travis. Maybe it was, but, Blackman was like, it was much different. This practice is much different. It was organized. It was really organized.
Right.
you could obviously read that as a shot at the previous staff that maybe wasn't as organized. Travis said essentially the same thing, that how much structure and organization it had. Kids notice that, man.
Yeah.
They do. Kids, they want to be coached. They want to win, and they want to be coached. Now, sometimes there's going to be headbutting, and sometimes it's going to feel relentless, and it's going to feel over the top, and it's going to feel, it won't feel great. But kids, by and large, if you're at a place like Florida State, you're trying to go somewhere, man, and you want to be coached. You want to get better, and or you can still stay at 18 and 20.
I mean, I've said it so many times on the show. I mean, it's something that I've coined, but I remember reading this a long time ago, and it resonated with me. And to that point, I think is the fact that, again, like, people don't mind being told what to do as long as the people that are telling them what to do know what they're doing. And I think that just kind of speaks to the whole, maybe if people want to take things as a slight. What I do kind of find interesting, though, is that nobody ever really bit on the things are different. At least I don't really remember, like, in those first few practices in spring, like when Willie took over in 18. Like, this is so much different. We talk about, like, is the strength and conditioning any different? And, like, and I don't know how much of that was them being coached up to say that, it's not.
The only thing I remember like that in that vein was I think it was at Media Day maybe in North Carolina, where we asked Cam about people showing up for off-season drills and what happened to them if they didn't. Yeah. And I thought he said that before – there was really no accountability. It didn't matter if you showed up or not. No, you didn't get in trouble.
Right.
There was no punishment. But now there is.
Right. If somebody showed up late, then everybody had to run for it or whatever.
And that is maybe the difference. But I think we were also excited about Taggart because of what he wasn't. You know what I mean? He wasn't the guy that was before him. But it wasn't like we came away from their first practices that we saw and like, holy moly, what a great energy. Yeah. I mean, we saw the kids doing dance parties. With the music, which I never really had a problem with, but there's no music out there now.
No music.
And
no music.
Celebrating, getting a touchdown and celebrating touchdowns.
7-on-7 picks. Those are great. Those my favorite.
So, but we all I ate it up at the time because I'm like, man, have fun. This is great. These kids haven't had fun in 2 or 3 years. Let's have some fun. Let them have some fun. That was the difference in practice that we talked about. What we didn't talk about, because we didn't know necessarily how unorganized it might have been, was the stuff that actually mattered. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when you hear us now talking about the differences, and you're going, well, Corey, 2 years ago you were saying the same thing about Willie and how different it was. Well, it was a different kind of different. It was more style, flash, not substance differences. These are actually differences within the structure of a practice, trying to make these football players better, which is kind of the goal of a practice. I was really impressed. I'm not just saying that because we get to go out and watch practice. Remember who's talking, folks.
Yeah, exactly.
I had to get up at 8:20 on a Saturday. My Friday night was ruined. And kind of my Saturday was ruined, honestly, to get out and watch. Well, not ruined. That's a strong word. And it was awesome. It was awesome. It was literally, I think we've watched, since I've been here, I've probably seen 9 or 10 full practices, and one was at 5:30 in the morning with Jimbo for a spring practice. To know that we'll get to do this every day, and to know that I'll know what I'm talking about when it comes to certain players and what coaches think of them, will be really cool, man. Will be really neat.
I need to make some imaging for this. I call it Slon scribbles, but I don't know if I want to go through all these sort of notes that I jotted down in the amount of time I was actually able to.
And we are talking basketball.
We are, We're going to transition here shortly. 2 things I just want to mention kind of real quickly. Back to the accountability thing. Was that Fuller was telling, I think it was he wanted certain groups on certain parts of the sideline. And I remember he told Marvin, like he barked, he didn't bark out, I shouldn't say that. He told Marvin basically like, Marvin, I need you to tell the guys to do this. And Marvin like instantly like parroted out what he said, got the guys onto the right side of the field for everything. Little minor sort of thing, but obviously just them identifying who their leaders are and putting some ownership on what's going on with the team onto the back of like a captain, you would think, like Marvin Wilson's caliber. And then they're calling out like the play, or at least like, the coverage, or they're calling out something on defense that they want them to run. And they're like, listen, everybody on the sideline needs to call it out the entire time before the play happens. And I think maybe the first play they did and the second play they stopped. and then before a coach could even tell them, like, hey, you guys need to be saying it out, Corey Durden, of all people. Corey Durden, and I shouldn't say that again. That sounded maybe like a shot at Corey. I wouldn't have expected, just because, I think the tweet he made after A.J. Lynn got kicked off the program was kind of like, well, this is a very encouraging thing. However, like, Corey Durden was the guy, and it wasn't him just like telling the guy next to him. It was him 360, hey, this is what we need to be doing right now. Do it. And after that, the rest of the practice, every single time pre-snap, you would hear Adam Fuller call out the defense, and you would hear the entire defense, the entire sideline yelling out to them what they're supposed to do. Little thing, but you just think of the amount of times that Florida State looked lost.
Yeah, but hey, where's the 11th guy on punt team?
And
that's what I was talking about earlier. Is when when it's starting to take hold is when the players start doing it themselves.
And again, that was that was something I saw that I'm like, well, that's really good. And not only because Corey Durden was one of the guys that stepped up and said it, but because it lasted the rest of the practice. Like, it wasn't like a little, okay, we'll just do it for one or two. It's just stupid me sitting here have to keep yelling it out. Like, every single time. Even Akeem Dent on his scooter scooting around.
Right.
Actually, I don't know. Could I say that? That's an injured player. I'm going to.
Well, we know that he's injured. Yeah. We don't know his injury, but we know that he's injured.
All right.
He said he was injured. He's missing all the practice, and we saw that he's in a.
Well, it doesn't matter what we saw. We can't. I don't know. Pivoting. Anywho. Okay. Even a player that's not out there participating currently was also falling in line and yelling out stuff. So, again, we'll have so much to talk about every single day on the show practically now. Although they're only going to practice, 2 or 3 days a week? Thursday.
They got Tuesday, Thursday, and then they take spring break off, so they're out for like 9 or 10 days. So they're basically getting 3 days pre-spring break to try to get a base. Right. And then they got, I guess, 12 when they come back, and then the spring game on the 18th. Real quick, April 18th.
They're actually going to have their last practice isn't going to be the Garden and Gold game. They're going to do one after, I think.
Oh, okay. All right.
A lot of programs.
Yeah, sometimes some teams do that.
I know Saban
which
does
is
that.
cool. You get to have film, and then you go try out to correct it. Yeah. What I was going to say, just for not so much philosophical or macro, but on the micro level, some guys that stood out to me. I thought, now I didn't pay attention a lot to the line of scrimmage. I was mainly focused on the skill guys offensively and defensively. I thought Asante Samuel was the best player on the field. There were probably 3 or 4 times where they tried to back shoulder him with either Warren Thompson or Tamarian Terry, and he broke up all of them. And that, by the way, that's one thing. That's the next step that Terry has to get good at, are those catches. He's great at running by you, which is a big part of being a receiver. It's a really important part, and scored on 90-yard touchdowns. But when he's even with someone, to be able to go and snag the ball, go up and get it like Kelvin could, or the great Greg Carr.
Citra
represent. That's something he's still got to work on. And Asante is not easy to do it on, man. He is a competitor. He is good. I think it was lost last year, the kind of season he had, because they were so bad defensively, but it wasn't because of him. He got beat. Everybody on that defense got beat. But he competes, and he's a really good player. And I think I think this will be his last year. He's an NFL player, and he's going to make all those receivers better. The ones that are coming in, the ones that are here, he's going to make them all better with the way he competes.
No shocker. Well, in that vein, I'll go back to my notes here. I know shocker. I mean, Marvin looked great.
Yeah.
Marvin looked really good.
There might be times where and his body looks different, man. So we saw him on Friday. I think they said he's only gained a pound or lost a pound.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, man, his body looks different. Tamarian Terry is noticeably like broader in the shoulders. Emmett Rice, you can tell, at least I could tell, he's put on some weight, man. He looks like a linebacker now. These strides they're making it's only been 3 months. Is pretty remarkable, man. Like it does look like Marvin's body composition has changed. All those folks, when you look at Alabama, and when you're like, what? How did Landon Dickerson become that in 4 months?
Human growth hormone.
Yeah, well, let's hope not, but maybe. But whatever's happening here, you're seeing results.
True Thompson had a real good rep in pass rush. So did Josh Griffiths, a true freshman. Bavion stood the point of attack real well. Cyrus Fagan had a pick. I think he actually got a retweet or a tweet out by Adam Fuller
Okay.
Austin, the intern, actually said that Fagan he thought he had a really good day. He had like 5 pass breakups, which I almost thought maybe he got him confused with Asante Samuel.
No, he had some too. Yeah, he had some too. But no, Asante, he's a safety. Asante was going up against their best receivers in one-on-one battles and essentially winning them all.
Yeah. 11 on 11, Griffiths and Jamarcus Chapman teamed up to have a pressure. So did Fagan. And, and also visually, man, you see the number 3 out there, and I get a little bit, I'm like, oh, man, my guy Cam's gone. Can't believe it, how quickly the time goes. But I'm like, but did he really leave? Is that Brian Robinson?
Yeah.
He looks
like
the
part,
like
man.
A beast.
He looks the part for sure.
So, I mean, I didn't see him particularly make any plays out there in the limited time that I was able to watch. But he does at least look like a guy that you could probably roll out there, and he's not going to get physically, intimidated or even physically manhandle out there, being a true freshman. So I didn't keep an eye on a whole bunch of true freshmen. But again, we're going to be able to watch these entire practices start to finish, and I'll probably actually not work during the practice and upload the video someday so I can actually kind of watch and have some better stuff to share about practice on the pod with Corey. All right, with that said, that was 40 minutes of spring football.
Wow. You're welcome, folks.
Yeah, so there you go. Dad corner time. You want to talk?
Yeah, right.
So you mentioned it. Should they cut the nets down if they were to win? I think you brought it up on your other podcast, Assemble Headlines, which you can talk about. It's fine. I think it's cute that you're like, you don't mention it by name sometimes, like the other podcast.
Well, right. I don't want to take the
it's okay. I know
shine off you, man.
I know where my station is in
right.
life. I'm
fine
with it. And we kind of quibbled about it, and you were on the right side of history per usual. You're like, I think they should. They did do it. It was.
I think it's a thing now, by the way. Yeah. Like Creighton did it.
Did you see me tweet at you? I copied you on a tweet. It happened like the day after we recorded the podcast. Someone was like 7 years ago this day. It was a mocking account. It was like Tom Crean in Indiana cut down the nets after a loss.
Oh, no, I did see that. Yeah, it was that day. It was the
yeah,
anniversary. Isn't that crazy? After a loss in front of nobody. Yeah. Everybody had left. But I do think it's a thing now. Like Creighton did it. Obviously, North Carolina and Virginia did it last year. Kansas had some sort of ceremony. I don't know if they cut down nets, but they did have a ceremony after winning theirs. So.
I saw that trophy. They had a trophy. I thought it was great. And my fear kind of was like almost putting like a sense of complacency onto this team of like finality. Like, look what we've done. Because it is a huge accomplishment.
Really, honestly.
It's like Wake Forest winning the ACC championship back in 06 or whatever it was, or at least winning the Atlantic almost. They won the whole damn thing, didn't they?
Wake?
Yeah.
Yeah. In 06, yeah.
I mean, it almost on par. Florida State winning the basketball regular season title is on par with a team like Wake Forest having won the football championship game. So it did feel appropriate. It didn't feel too over the top. It didn't feel forced or contrived. I mean, it felt like a real organic kind of celebration. All the players were into it. Ham was smiling from ear to ear the whole time. I mean, they absolutely thrashed. I thought that was a really clever line you had in your column about, thanks to Boston College for playing the role of the Washington Generals, making it a pretty stress-free day.
Yeah, good.
But the banner coming down, the confetti, the cutting down of the nets, all of it felt like this program, that coaching. I mean, that coach. These players deserve it, but that coach deserve that moment. And I don't think it will, if they somehow flame out in the second round, it's not going to be because of the way they celebrated Saturday night in the Civic Center after a huge accomplishment.
Oh,
the
absolutely
Donald L. Tucker, the Donald L. Tucker Civic Center.
Exactly right. I was wondering how it would go. And it was perfect. Like Leonard, the ovation that Leonard got standing on that ladder, man, was 18 years in the making. And as I wrote about afterwards, like it's always fun to see good things happen to good people, and for good people to have great accomplishments. And that's what this was. This is, to me, I know it's not officially recognized as the ACC championship, but to me, this is so much more impressive than. Or so much more lasting, I guess.
And catching hot one week.
Winning 3 games in Atlanta back in 2012. It just is. To me, it's a bigger deal because, that was awesome that they did that. That Florida State did that, got hot with a very old team, very good team, played really hard defensively, and won that. That's a lasting memory forever. It was a really special season. But it didn't portend of great things to come. It didn't really say, hey, Florida State's arrived as one of the elites, the new bloods, as he liked to call them. They're never going to be a blue blood, but they're a new blood. This kind of does. What this capped off was, okay, yeah, we're not just a program that can upset Duke or North Carolina every so often, and we can work our way into the top 4 and get a double bye. Yes, their 4th straight year they've gotten a double bye in the tournament, that they've been one of the top 4 teams in the tournament, or in the ACC. But now they're the best team in the ACC, and it's not a fluke. And I think that's what's, to me, what's most rewarding about this, most telling about this. It's not a fluke. They were the best team in the league from start to, well, not start because they lost to Pittsburgh, but after that loss to Pitt, they were the best. They went 16-3. They were 16-3 in their 3 losses. They could have and probably should have won them all. It's just it doesn't feel like, man, you've got to appreciate this because this was a magical confluence of events. We got lucky. Teams were bad. We won some games. We hit some miracle shots to win. There was nothing fluky about this. Florida State is the best team in the ACC, and Leonard Hamilton put that together. I don't think any of us would have ever thought that in a 20-game ACC schedule that Florida State would be able to win 16 of them and win the ACC. There's like 7 or 8 programs in this conference that have won national championships or played for national championships. Florida State isn't one of the. Well, they have played for one back before any of us were born. Well, that's not true. There's people here. That was only 3 years before I was born. Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, Clark. It was color TV. I just think it's a more of a lasting accomplishment. It's a more impressive accomplishment to me than winning 3 games in a row in Atlanta in 2012 because it's the course of a season. Literally, it's 20 games, and it's a grind. And all these teams can beat each other. So for you to go 16-4 is just such a neat accomplishment. I'm just glad that they clinched it at home, in that the fans got to show their appreciation for Leonard Hamilton. I don't know if he'll be climbing another ladder this year. Odds are probably not. It's really hard to win these tournaments. But this team got a banner. And this team got to experience cutting down an honor that was really well deserved.
I mean, well said.
Thanks, buddy.
Again, a remarkable feat, especially when you think about all the talent they lost, the fact that they lost their first conference game, they lost the first game of the season. But, Leonard, after the game was steadfast in that, he said that he thought this team would be better than last year's team. Just crazy. And maybe that's why a lot of the time when we would speak to him, he would just constantly talk about how, he always does about, we're not close to where we need to be. We have so much room to grow.
Right.
But, there really was a sense, even when they started, they cracked into the top 25, and it was, I don't care about that because none of y'all, cared about us before we were ranked in the top 25. Then they become top 10, and then, just all these sort of accomplishments they started stacking on top of each other. He kind of remained steadfast and of there's more, there's greater out there for this team, and then he pretty much, explicitly said it after the game about he thought going to this season, this team, despite losing everything they lost, was going to be better than last year's team.
Yeah, so, which was surprising for me to hear that he was telling people that because not that my opinion's more important than his, but I didn't think that, and I don't. Leonard doesn't talk like that unless he really means it. There's some guys that'll be like, there's some coaches that'll be like, oh yeah, wait till you see us next year, the year after that, like always trying to set up.
Yeah.
Hey, give me time. Yeah. No, man, he wouldn't do that. And it's pretty incredible that they are better than they were last year. It doesn't make sense. They lost a lot of really good players, a lot of them. Devin Vassell played like 8 minutes a game last year. Who would have thought he would turn into this? We'll find out. We should find out today. I think it's today, later on this morning, who the ACC Coach of the Year is. I would think it'd be him. Tony Bennett's going to get some votes because of how they storm back. They win every game by a point. They've won 7 in a row, and I think they've won 7 games by a grand total of like 20 points. Yeah. But they win them. So Tony Bennett could get some votes, and then we'll see where Trent Forrest and Vassell land on the all ACC teams. I'll be surprised if either one of them is first team because they don't have numbers, man. You'd have to have like Elijah Hughes, who's the leading scorer in the league, or Vernon Carey, one of those, or Trey Jones. Or John Mooney, one of those guys wouldn't, or Jordan Nwora, one of those guys wouldn't make it, and they'll split the vote.
They'll split the votes. It's going to be a Heisman sort of thing. I think I do think the coach is it all ACC. It's a media thing though, right? It's not the coaches that vote on it, right?
I think there might be two, but this one is specifically is the media one, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I didn't get an email for. I thought I was a member of that organization to vote, but I guess I'm not.
I do think the coaches realize like how special like Trent Forrest is. I don't know if they could pull the trigger on naming him first team, all ACC, but I also think they also do recognize how great Devin is. But to the point, I do think it's going to be like, well, they're both great. Could you do what you're doing with just one of them, and then that's going to probably go into play in why they want to name him first team. But whatever, they got the nets cut down. First number one seed in Greensboro. You going to Greensboro? Ira's going to Greensboro.
Ira's going to Greensboro.
How far is Greensboro from your house?
4 hours or so. All right. But Brady had his first baseball tournament this weekend. Had to be down here. Then the next weekend, I feel like we'll be in Tampa. So won't be able to watch that tournament either. So I feel like that was my weekend. I could watch him. But yeah, just overall, such a crazy, wonderful accomplishment for Leonard. And again, it feels like next year, depending on who's coming back, that team could even be better than this team. It depends on who comes back, obviously. But if they get some guys to return, man, they are loaded again. And now North Carolina will be better. The league maybe will be a little more difficult. But it's just, I felt like after I guess that was my point. After the 2012, they didn't go to the tournament for 4 years. They won the ACC and then go to the tournament for 4 years. So they didn't really build on that accomplishment.
Which is funny because during the game, like the color analyst was saying, like, I really think, that this program really took a turn after that 2012 ACC championship. And I was like, well, this guy's just clearly.
Yeah, no, it didn't. It didn't because it took a turn for the worse. Yeah. But then,
they had a bad recruiting class or two.
Well, yeah, but and then maybe if Aaron Thomas doesn't have to get kicked out of school or Ian Miller could have stayed healthy, there could have been some tournaments in there. But yeah, they just weren't as good. And now they're better than they've ever been. This is the best era of Florida State basketball in its history. It's this is rarefied air, man. And you don't know how long. Number one, you don't know how long Leonard's going to be coaching. He's 72, I think. Although he looks like he did when he was
71,
50. And you just don't know how long it can sustain itself. So enjoy it while you got it, man. Absolutely get up there and cut down those last. And I thought the crowd was great. Mm-hmm. It was a bad game. It was an ugly game. Boston College, holy moly! I know they were missing 3 of their leading scorers, and they're not good even if they have those guys. So it just felt like an exhibition game. It felt like playing Valdosta State in early October. Just the feel, the flow of the game. They were trying alley-oops that they couldn't connect with. Like it was just a sloppy game. Florida State was, but they had that comfortable lead, and the crowd was just still so into it, and they all stuck around to see it. And for
well, it worked out well. They flashed a screen of the Louisville game on the big.
That was an enormous cheer, yeah.
And then Trent comes out the game. It's like there's all these little build-ups that it was
and
perfectly.
Kudos to was it Teddy Valentine?
Yeah.
So when they took Trent out of the game, Boston College was going down to shoot a free throw, and Trent was walking off, and he doesn't really have to leave the court till after the first free throw. So Valentine held him there, like armbarred him, and kept him on the court until after the kid made his first, and it was really loud that whole time. I think the kid might have made that free throw, which was impressive. Yeah. But it was after the free throw that he let him go to get more, to just keep the ovation as long as possible. And it just struck me in that moment, like Valentine's probably ref 20 or 25 of his games. Like those guys are humans too.
Right.
And I guarantee you he appreciates Trent Forrest. Like they're basketball fans. And they know that those are the guys that make, those are the kind of guys that make this program like a Terrence Mann. Right. The Florida State isn't littered with a bunch of one-and-dones. It has to be program guys like Forrest and Mann. And for Forrest to get to climb a ladder and cut down a net or cut a little sliver of a net, what a neat way to end his home career, man. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
If they make the Final Four, is he on the Rushmore of Florida State athletics, Trent?
No. If they won a championship, he would, depending on what he did in the tournament. Oh. So if they win a national championship, one of those guys, if they go off, like if they hit a game-winning shot, then yeah. But otherwise, I mean, not that we do that kind of sports talk stuff, but who you taking off?
Right.
Dion, Charlie, Jessica Warren, Buster Posey, JD. Like, I don't know that he quite gets there unless he wins the national championship, which he could. I mean, somebody's got to.
I still think a 1 seed's in play. I'm crazy like that.
I don't know, man. But so it looks like it's. I mean, I feel like it's a lock that there are 2. I think I think Jerry Palm had him on Sunday as the number 2 seed behind Creighton. And I don't know if the teams behind them can do enough to catch up because I think Kentucky was behind them, but I don't think there's anybody in the SEC necessarily that Kentucky could beat to move ahead of Florida State. Even if Florida State lost their opener to,
I think it's Clemson or Miami.
Miami.
Would that be like a quality loss? Not a quality loss. Would that be a bad loss?
It wouldn't
Miami,
it'd be like
I
think it'd be a quad 2 loss. It wouldn't be losing to Boston College would have been bad.
Yeah.
I don't think Miami or Clemson would be. They're both I think they're in like the 80s or 90s as far as the net ratings. So that's not a terrible loss on a neutral site.
Right. And then they would probably get Duke in the semis.
Yeah. So that's a road game. And then, if they won that, they would probably, who knows what would be on the other side. North Carolina might be about to go on a run and win 5 in 5 days.
Well, it's Louisville and Virginia
on the other side, yeah.
So
but you don't know if they're going to, who's going to come out of that bracket. You would think one of them, but who knows. But yeah, man, it's really neat. It's cool. What an unbelievable season. Crazy to think when it started, I'm like I think they'll be a bubble team. I think they'll be on the right side of the bubble, but I think they're going to be an 8 or 9 seed. And no, they're a 2. So is it to the point now where going into next year, Florida State fans are like, okay, we know we're going to be in the tournament. Just what seed are we going to get? Is that where Florida State fans live now? Is that where they reside when it comes to basketball?
That's a great thought. I mean, it's a really good question.
Like Kansas fans, they know they're going to be in the tournament unless the Adidas thing keeps coming. But Kansas fans always know they're going to be in the tournament. They just want to know what location and what seed.
Right.
Maybe Florida State's there.
Kind of like us with bowl games.
Yeah, we know we're going to be in a bowl. When was the last time Florida State didn't go to a bowl? I can't remember that.
Is it worth talking about baseball at all? First conference series dropped it to Duke. They lost the first 2 games by a run each.
Yeah. And then they won 10-2 on Sunday. Yeah. I think it's worth talking about Cabell and what he's doing now. I think he either leads the country in RBIs or is right there in the top 2 or 3. Right. He had a grand slam on Sunday. He had another home run on Saturday. He also had their only hit on Friday. In all his home runs, as far as I know, have all been to right center, right field, or right center field.
The grand slam was right center field. Yeah.
I mean that's where
it looked like a pop up and it just went out.
That's just where hitters make money, man. That's why I try to tell Brady, man, right center field, right center. If you can do that, you can hit. And so, man, that was really good to see. I think he's Reese Albert hit a home run on Sunday too and had another double off the wall, and he'd been really struggling.
I think he went yards Saturday maybe as well. I think he had a good game Saturday.
Yeah.
I'll pull it up.
So Friday they just faced a really good pitcher and were overmatched, which you don't like to say that about a Florida State lineup. But they were overmatched by that kid, and they struck out 17 times in a game. They put the ball in play 10 times and had 1 hit, and it was one that was kind of misplayed in left field. And the guy had a perfect game with 2 outs in the 7th inning. So there are going to be moments like that with Florida State's lineup. We've been saying it. But I thought they pitched well all 3 games for the most part. Connor Grady didn't pitch well on Sunday. He had to be pulled. But
Jack Anderson
came in.
And Meat talked about him emerging as like a frontline guy potentially. And I don't think
he's
as a midweek
shown some
guy
really
either.
good stuff.
Yeah.
So there was a good win to come back and get that, even though Grady didn't pitch all that well. I thought CJ and Drohan both pitched pretty darn good, pretty darn well. The offense on Saturday had a really good day, except for the whole little thing of getting runners home when they're on base. I mean, they left 15 runners on base. Yeah. That's hard to do. But they got, you got 18 runners on base. That's good. You usually get 18 runners on base in a 9-inning game. You're gonna score 7 of them. You're gonna win. They just didn't get a big hit when they needed to. But the key is to get runners on base, and that's what they did, and just didn't come through with a big hit. And then Sunday they won 10-2. So not a great – you can never say it's a good series when you lose it. Right. They lost 2 out of 3. Duke is ranked. It's a good Duke team, and that pitcher
ranked
on Friday night –
higher than them.
Yeah. That pitcher on Friday night is a stud. They're not going to face many more better than him. And I didn't see the box score on Sunday, but they picked up the baseball a little bit better than they had been too. So that's good. So overall,
they had 2 errors.
Yeah, so
Duke's 1.
They had 5 errors on the weekend, which for them is plummeting.
I think the middle infield was clean. Maybe DeSatis had an error on Friday night. I think Tyler Martin had a little bit of a tough weekend in the field.
Oh, did he? Well, that's not good.
But he had a good game on. Had a good game on Sunday though. But yeah, on Saturday, Reese Albert actually doubled off the wall in right field. So.
Okay, yeah. So he doubled off the wall twice and then homered on Sunday.
Your pitching staff's really great. Elijah Cabell's, he's still striking out, but is emerging as a guy that's going to manufacture runs and bring guys in. If Reese's bat wakes up a little bit, and you don't kick it around as much, which you didn't. And again, those two games, they were in. I mean, it wasn't they lost the series, but the first two games, Friday and Saturday, were 1-run games. They had the game-winning run, or like Connor. Or
yeah, they left the bases loaded 2 or 3 times on Saturday, and they were in it even after getting no hit for 7 innings on Friday. Yeah, and it was at Duke. That's a tough way to start the ACC at Duke.
The first away game period.
Yeah, and normally Duke isn't very good, but they are now. But it gets, it's a hard schedule, man. He did that for a reason. It's a hard schedule. But they haven't been, they've played 2 really good teams. They've gone, 1-4 against them, against Texas Tech and Duke.
All right.
But I think all the games were, the 4 losses were all 1 or 2 runs. They were in every game. They're close. They also could keep losing every game by 1 run, and then it really doesn't matter if you're close.
I think
Close only counts in dancing.
Is that what it is?
In horseshoes.
They'll play against the Gators in Gainesville on Tuesday, 6:30.
Gators are undefeated. They're 16-0. So
what better way to snap the streak?
That's right, man.
This is how
you gotta believe. You gotta believe. And also, women's basketball team came up just short on Sunday. If anybody watched that game, there was a terrible jump ball call with about a minute and a half to go. Florida State was down by 1. They missed a shot. They missed all their shots in the final 4 minutes, which is why they lost. This play isn't why they lost. But missed a shot. The ball's on the floor. There's a scramble. Florida State's down and has it. She's getting ready to pass it out. An NC State girl dives on her. I don't even know if she touches the ball. But if she touches it, it's for literally a millisecond. And then she passes the ball to a teammate who then I think knocked down a 3, but the whistle had already blown, for a jump ball. Like, literally, there was no –
Who had possession arrow?
NC State, of course. Like, Florida State had the ball. She was making a pass. She had made the pass. It wasn't like she ripped it away from her after a 4-second struggle. She literally had the ball, rolled over, and passed it to her, but the referee called a jump ball, and then NC State went down and scored on the next possession to go up 2 or 3, and Florida State just couldn't make any shots. It was a bummer, man. I was hoping Sue – it's been a trying year for her because they've had such great moments, and then they've lost to terrible teams like Notre Dame. They've had some really bad moments. That would have been a really neat
Notre Dame's not good at women's basketball this year?
They're awful. They're
really?
They were 14 and 18.
Yeesh.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I don't know if there's injury bug or something. They stopped recruiting.
I remember seeing it because Muffin McGraw, is that her name?
Muffet, yeah.
Muffet. They had the tweet about successful coaches clinic, or there was some funny thing with her and Steve Kerr and somebody else on Twitter were just all kind of lamenting their bad seasons, despite the fact that they're really always.
Oh yeah, it was Roy Williams.
Yeah.
I think when Roy played up at Notre Dame, he met with her because she cried during a post-game press conference, like she just kind of broke down about the season. And I think he reached out to her after he saw that. But yeah, they were bad, and Florida State lost to them their home finale.
Oh really?
And then they go up to the Greensboro. They beat the bejesus out of Wake Forest. They beat Louisville again, who's number 4 in the country. Yeah. And then they're, a minute and a half away from beating NC State, who's top 10. So they've shown that what their ceiling is. But now they're not going to be able to – they probably won't host. So they'll have to be on the road probably as a 5 or a 6.
Really? This was a team that you thought was the best?
Oh, they were great. They had great moments.
Yeah.
Those seniors are really good. But, yeah, they just didn't have enough great moments to even get a host. So they'll probably be a 5 maybe. And that we won't know that until the Monday after the
Selection
Sunday. It's
Sunday.
really weird. Like the tournament's over, and they have 8 games, 8 days of nothing.
What about these Horizon League teams? Ohio Valley Conference.
They're done.
They're just hanging out for 10 days.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It is. It's just odd. It's odd that the championship's on a Sunday. Now they have 8 days before they find out who they play on in the March Madness.
Well, enjoy spring break, ladies.
That's right.
So. We'll be back. I think we're doing this every single day now because spring football. Maybe spring break week we won't, or we probably still will. We'll figure it out.
Maybe, but that'll be the basketball. We'll know who they're playing and where they're going and all that. So, yeah.
So let's subscribe to the podcast. That way, when the show's published, and it's published pretty much 99%, well, not 99% of the time, 87% of the time, it's published at 12:01 a.m. Mm-hmm. And it'll be there on your phone.
When you wake up.
Google device,
or if you're still
Android device, Apple device. We like you guys that listen to it and ladies that listen to it on YouTube, but sometimes the software that I use that puts it on YouTube doesn't work, and it doesn't go on YouTube. But it's always on the Apple iTunes podcast app, whatever it's called, in the Google Play Store or whatever, and I can't talk anymore.
And give us a 5-star review.
That'd be nice.
Even if you don't believe it. Just be nice.
Yeah. Think about all the times you tip somebody 20% at the restaurant.
And they didn't deserve it. Yeah, they deserved like a 9%.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just be nice. Just be nice, people. We're nice to you. We're nice to you. Be nice to us.
I mentioned that was probably one of the best parts about Bali is that it was just 6% gratuity. It was like built in on everything.
Oh, really?
6%.
6%.
6%.
That's how they're living over in Bali, huh? Jeez, that's crazy.
Not
All right.
really. 20%.
Oh, I had a guy. I was out at an establishment watching some live music Friday night, and a guy really nice, he's much younger than me, came over and said he was a big fan of the show. He used to listen to us on his commute to. I didn't quite get what he did.
Oh boy!
But it was Hurricane Irma relief.
Okay.
So he would, and I don't know when Hurricane Irma was, but he said he listened to us. That's when he started listening to us. Well,
I don't think it was us. I think Irma happened. I was in Alabama when Irma happened. I think like 17. I don't even think you were with War Chant then. Maybe he's a big Ryan Kelly fan. Maybe he thinks you're Ryan Kelly.
Oh man, what a dagger that is! Man, I should have looked it up to say Irma. What?
Maybe sure, Michael. You mean Michael? You sure? Michael, we were around when Michael happened.
Well, I know he didn't say Michael. I thought he said Irma.
Okay. Pretty sure Irma.
Look up Irma. I'm sure it's got a Wikipedia entry. But anyway, he said he was on the Hurricane Irma relief. Maybe I just misheard him.
Yeah, September 2017.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, things happened after that, so it could have been maybe February 18 when we started doing the show. He was doing reclamation.
There you go. That's right. Yeah,
stuff.
He might have still been going down. Where was Irma? Where did that hit? West coast of Florida, like Fort Myers, and then went up kind of. Did it hit the Panhandle?
It hit like north of Lake City.
Oh, okay.
It looks like so. Yeah, it kind of went up inland Florida.
All right. Well, either way, I appreciate it, man. I didn't catch your name. It was really loud. I thought he said his name was Ben, but I probably didn't hear him. But, yeah, that was nice. Anytime you see, especially Aslan, because he likes it, he needs it. If you see him out and about, go tell him that you're a fan of the show. We appreciate that. We like that. We like the positive feedback.
Sure. All right, we're done. We'll be back at some point sooner than later. We'll be back tomorrow. Just kidding. He's Corey Maslin. Thanks for listening to Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's Indescribably Good. Get a Kickin' Chicken Sandwich. I'm moving to it right now.